I wake up every morning, and in that moment before I open my eyes, I forget my husband is dead. When I look over at the other side of the bed, where usually one or both of the girls are lying, sleeping, looking so like their father, memory hits. Then I cry, trying to do it quietly so I don't wake them. This works about half the time. When they do see me cry, they touch my hand and then pretend it isn't happening. There's a fair bit of pretending these days. Pretending not to cry or not to notice. Pretending that this is normal or that it's okay that it's not normal. Pretending that we know what we're doing. Those first few weeks after the funeral, I guess I do know what I'm doing, sort of. There's paperwork to do and things to look after. People call or text. I get the kids to school, I come home, organise things, clean things. I throw things out. I think about him. I get angry. I get sad. I walk the neighbourhood. But at regular intervals throughout the day, I find myself going to the cupboard, reaching up to the highest shelf where we kept the morphine, high enough so the girls couldn't reach it. It's automatic now, getting his medication ready for him. I get to the cupboard and wonder what I'm doing there. Then I remember. And I don't know what to do, because everyone thinks that the worst thing has happened, that it's over because it ended. But his death, that's nothing like the worst thing. The worst thing is now, is being here now without him. Because I don't know how to live outside that story, that terrible story of diagnosis to death. I'm Sophie Townsend, and this is Goodbye to All This, an original podcast from the BBC World Service. Chapter 7, Port in the Storm. What exactly happens now? What happens now after I transfer the bills into my name, after I write thank you notes to people who helped us? What happens after I give away our dining table and chairs because it seems clear to me we'll never again have people over for dinner? On my walks, I stop at the shop to buy paper, thinking I'll take it to him at the cancer centre because he gets bored, hooked up to the chemotherapy drip. You can't keep looking for morphine and buying the newspaper for a dead man. You can't keep looking at your children as they sleep, crying at them silently. So I go back to work. Back in the office, people are kind. No one rushes me and they're careful and quiet around me. They ask about the girls, of course, and I tell them they're doing okay. I don't know if they're okay, really. They're back at school and they eat and they do their homework and they see their friends. But there's a sadness they carry in their bodies in the way they stay so quiet and small, as if they're trying to hide. And I ask, of course I do, how they feel, how they are. But they don't say much. I watch them. I pick up cues and clues. But the truth is, I don't know. They're okay, I say. They're okay. I try to concentrate, but Russell's death is right there, an inch in front of me, and it's like it obscures my vision, like I can't see round it. I listen in meetings and it feels like I'm taking it in, doing what I need to do. But then a co-worker hands me a tissue because there are tears running down my face. I can cry now without noticing. I'm tired of crying. I'm tired of people looking at me like I'm going to cry. I'm tired of being this watery mess.
Yeah, you definitely become different. I mean, because you are, but yeah, people don't know how to deal with you.
That's Tom. Before Russell got sick, we'd worked in the same department, although we had very little to do with each other day to day. I'd met him before Russell had died, chatted to him occasionally, been in meetings with him, but I barely knew him. When I come back to work, after I can't stay at home any longer, I see more of Tom. I hear his voice in the corridors more often than I did, bump into him more than I used to. We're shy of each other at first, wary of assuming a camaraderie that may not really be there.
It was 7 weeks between her death and his. Yeah.
But the truth of it is, Tom's wife is dead, and my husband is too. And one morning he suggests we have a cup of tea in his office. He shuts the door and we start to talk. He tells me about his wife, about her illness, the way she died. I tell him about watching Russell get thinner, watching his clothes get bigger on his body. We talk about what it was like in the moment of death. We talk about how lonely we are, how bone-crushingly lonely bed has become. We talk about the children, his son, my girls. We talk about feeling angry and scared and sad and the world not understanding. We describe our weddings to one another, our marriages. It's a lot of ground to cover with a stranger over a cup of tea. After that first morning, it's every morning. I sit in his office with him and we talk. And people walk past, and I know sometimes someone wants to talk to one of us, but most people, when they see Tom and I together, they just keep walking. When I leave his office after our morning talk, I can feel the shift in the air. Everything's harder when I walk out that door. Things are sharper and rougher, and I feel smaller and less protected. So throughout my day, I listen for him. I hear him in the corridor, getting on with his day. I bump into him in the lifts, and I'm always grateful to see him. I feel stronger, him being near. And then I go home and the house is silent. I don't know how to talk to the girls, and they don't know how to talk to me. And I want to look after them so badly. I want to protect them from everything I'm feeling, from everything they're feeling. My grief scares them. Their grief scares me. And so we don't talk much. I wish I could hold them, and I wish they'd cry in my arms as I stroke their heads, but they don't. In the morning, I walk them up the hill to school, crossing the road where it's safe from the cars that whiz by. I used to cross with them at a more dangerous spot, knowing that I could get them across, but now we walk up to the traffic lights, despite their protests. I tell myself that they need to get used to walking up to the lights, so when I'm not here, they don't just run willy-nilly across without the benefit of my grown-up eyes. Truth is, I've got scared of cars, scared of being hit. It started the day after he died, this fear. The first time I went to cross a road, this awful idea struck. I cannot die. I just can't. I'm the only thing these girls have left. And so now I stand at the side of the road, frightened every time, like a child without her mother's hand. I shepherd them in through the gate and they say goodbye. Poppy still hugs me. Bear won't. But most days that's okay. She's almost 12 and I understand. Some days it's torture, but I say nothing. I watch them from the edges of the playground as they talk to their friends before the bell rings to go into class. They look okay. You can't tell, just from looking, that their father is dead. And then I rush into work, into Tom's office, and we talk. We talk about how no one understands. Everyone around us is trying to say the right thing and do the right thing, but they always say and do exactly the wrong thing. Nothing they do is right. And we wonder why this is.
Physically, if you had a shower and whatever, and you have a nice dress on or a pair of trousers, and you smile at someone, they go, well, you're doing really well, like that. That is well-intentioned, I get that. And that makes them feel good. Because if you walk past them and fall apart and start crying on them, that will be a struggle for them and you know what I mean? So that's what they want. I get that, and you want that, but...
We are falling apart. But in Tom's office, we somehow make sense of this story we find ourselves living. The story that begins at the end. It's confusing and confounding, but within these four walls, we've found our place. The girls have a varied after-school social life, play dates and visits to Grandma and Grandpa's. On Wednesday night, they sleep over at my parents' house. And I love Wednesdays because I have dinner alone. And I imagine them living and talking and doing things and not sitting silently with me. I imagine them being light in the world, happy. My parents take them on walks to restaurants for dinner. They watch movies, read books. I ring them to say goodnight, and I know they like to hear my voice, but the conversation is short because there's not a whole lot to say. And in the morning, I wake up by myself, and it's a relief to get ready by myself. Imagining the girls having breakfast, my parents getting them out of the house briskly and efficiently, driving them to the gates of the school. At the office, after my morning chat with Tom, I leave to get some work done. But I visit him again in my lunch break, and sometimes for another cup of tea in the afternoon. Occasionally a brave colleague pokes their head in, mumbling something about work, but looking at us and telling us that it can probably wait. Most of the time it probably can't. At night I'm tired and the kitchen's a mess and no one has picked up their shoes from the floor and the towels are in a stinking damp pile in the corner of the bathroom. And I say to the girls that I'm tired of this, that they treat this house like a hotel. I'm not their maid. I'm doing this alone, I tell them, and I need some help. I say that I can't do everything, that it's not fair. I get angrier and angrier, and I keep yelling long after I need to. I keep asking them how they expect me to cope all alone, waiting on them hand and foot with no help at all. They pick up their shoes. They put their towels in the washing machine. They don't meet my eye. Is this my life now? Is this it? Damp towels and mess everywhere and yelling at my children? We go to sleep cross, all three of us. But when we wake up, I hug them both and I say I'm sorry. I say that this is tough and I wish I didn't get angry. But sometimes I'll be angry. I tell them again that I need their help. I can't do this, I can't. I take them up the hill to school, silent. Until Poppy says, "You are the mum. You're in charge." On the bus, on the way to work, I wonder what she means by that. That it's okay for me to yell at them to pick up their towels? Seems unlikely. I go to Tom's office and I ask him what he thinks. "She's clever," he says. "She's very clever." And I don't know what he means either. And I watch Tom's boss walk past his door, pointedly looking at his watch and then at Tom.
It's kind of like being in a train crash, right? And then getting off and having like the same injuries as somebody else and walking down the train track with them and talking about it. You know what I mean? As opposed to getting off the train and everyone's dead except you.
The thing is, you have to stop walking down the tracks. A week or two later, when I go into Tom's office, he's not there. There's a note for me on his desk saying he's in a meeting. We'll grab a coffee later. Which we do, but we don't see each other quite so much. We're busy. We wave to each other in the corridor. We have a cup of tea in the afternoon, but not every day. I notice, though, after the safety of Tom's office gradually falls away, my senses are revived. I hear things and see things and I feel things too. I don't like a lot of it, but there's bits of it I do.
Like at a point, people go, "We're not talking about that now." And they don't tell you when that is. And it may be the same time for everyone. Maybe they ring each other up, I don't know, but, you know. And you can't be the poor widow anymore because everyone just goes, "No, I won't cop that." People valuise the trauma and they go, "Oh, we think that's worth about a month or a year," or something. So they set criteria around it. They go, "Okay, that's 36 days now. You can't be that anymore."
When the world is ready and waiting for you to return, you're not always ready. You have to do it anyway. And I get it now, what Poppy meant about me being in charge. It's not that Tom kept me from the world, it's not that at all. We were a port in the storm for each other. And lots of people never get that. Never get that space to breathe, to recover just a little. With someone who knows exactly what you need. But you've got to let go, you've got to. It's like learning to swim. eventually someone lets go of you and you move through the water, and it's always before you think you can. But you can. The thing is, you never know just when the water might become unsafe, and a sudden change in the current might threaten to push you under.
Crescent mountain sun, frozen bay, field of right here with me. Floats away.
Goodbye to All This is produced by me, Sophie Townsend, and Eleanor McDowell. The music has been specially created for the podcast by Jeremy Walmsley. Alan Hall is the executive producer. The consultant story editor from CBC Podcasts is Chris Oake. The BBC World Service podcast editor is John Minnell. It's a Falling Tree production for the BBC World Service.